Hello, welcome back to the InsTech Podcast. Zoya here. This week's guest is Pravina Ladva, Group Chief Digital and Technology Officer at Swiss Re, a company who needs little introduction as one of the world's largest reinsurers. From the rollout of generative AI tools across Swiss Re's global workforce to the automation of underwriting guidelines used by thousands of life and health clients, this episode takes us behind the scenes of what innovation looks like at enterprise scale. Robin and Pravina also discuss why tomorrow's best talent will be fluent in both business and tech. Now let's dive into the conversation.
Welcome to this week's InsTech Podcast. This week's guest is Pravina Ladva. She's the Group Chief Digital and Technology Officer at Swiss Re. I have been trying to track Pravina down for nearly a year, and I'm delighted to have her on the podcast. Pravina, thank you so much for joining us. I know how busy you are.
Thank you, Robin, and it's great to be here, and I'm glad you managed to track me down finally.
Look, I look at a job title like Group Chief Digital and Technology Officer, and I think, what a huge company you work for. And I think to myself, what on earth does that job involve? It must have a huge ambit.
Absolutely. And as we all know, job titles are one thing, but it's actually what you do on a day-to-day basis that makes the role what it is. And I look at my job for a very simple lens. It's about using all the tools that one gets in the world of technology, but for one single purpose. And that purpose is to drive impact and outcome for our business priorities and our strategic direction. And so that's the way I look at my role. So one day I might be working on GenAI. The other day I might be working on operational resilience. The topics vary, which is why I love what I do. But really at the heart of it, it is about how do I really drive digital transformation with an outcome and an impact to help our customers and our clients.
That raises this question, which is, how do you work out what to focus on at any given moment in time? As you said, it could be this or it could be that, but you have to look at email in tray and your strategic priorities. What do you do to say, I'm going to do this one now and then that one later?
Yeah, so I think the key thing is about focus. And to give you some tools, at the end of every year, we always set our goals for the coming year. And once we've set our goal at a team level and across the divisional level, which are aligned to our business goals and priorities, I will always send an email to my directs in the beginning of January, making really clear to them about what my focus areas are going to be. And I do that for two reasons. One, so that they know what they're working on and what I'm going to be interested in. But actually, I also do it for myself, because every week I will look at that email that I wrote in January and say, what did I think was important for this year? And am I really truly focusing on that on a daily and a weekly basis? So they are some big strategic objectives. But again, it comes back to the impact. And we all know everybody can have a well-laid plan, but we've also got to be ready for things that might come in at short notice because of external environmental changes or internal changes or changes in priority. And I think the way I look at how I prioritize is the basics in my job just need to work. And the basics I would call in terms of operational resilience, system stability, and providing our customers and clients with what we promised them we would do. And that takes priority. And I think that almost gives you then the license to do the stuff that everybody gets really excited about. And that's then I say the foundations are solid and working. So what are the big ticket items that we really need to drive from a strategic perspective? And more importantly, how I can help the team and not hinder them. And really, my objective is not to interfere and do the day-to-day with the team, but to help remove obstacles and barriers to achieving success.
I'm just going to push on the theme a little bit more because I can see it happening on GenAI, where what happens as the company goes out and says we should make more use of GenAI and asks around the group and the various operational centers and says, can we have some use cases in? You end up with 1,000 use cases and then nobody quite knows what basis to select the next piece of work. And we're often asked this question and we haven't got an answer, which is there some kind of science or metrics that you could apply to say we in the team should be focusing on this one and not that one, because there's a way of measuring its impact as being bigger than another one? Is there something you have along those lines?
Yeah, there is. And I think it's a mix. So first of all, I think you have to, in any organization, create that curiosity and that spirit of innovation. So you have to give everybody the tools and in this case, and let's give a real example, access to ChatGPT so people can get familiar with what the art of the possible is. So you have to have that ground up innovation and creative thinking because I think only when you have that, people go, okay, I know what I can do to help myself. How can now I apply this to a business process or a business function? And that's when the next stage comes, which is the power of the use cases. And we all know we have to have multiple use cases and from that select the few that are really going to make the transformational impact. And if I look at industry wide at the moment, many organizations have done the creativity innovation bit. Everybody talks about the 100 use cases. I think the challenge we all have right now is selecting the use cases that are going to make a difference. And there, I think you have to go back to old school business cases. We all have project plans and we all have milestones. We all have business cases. So, what is the business case? I look at it really simply making money or saving money. And how does that use case align to that objective? And then you have to prioritize based on the resources you have available. So, I think really the secret ingredient here is using old school, traditional business thinking and management ways of working and applying it to the new technology. I think sometimes we get dazzled that because it's a new technology, we now have to find a different way of measuring it. And I don't think you do. The other thing we need to remember is this technology is fairly nascent. So it's moving at a pace and moving at a speed. So set the ambition and be ready that you might not achieve that ambition because the technology might not work in the way you want it to work.
Yeah, that's a good point. Nothing wrong with a bit of old school creeping in there to balance the sort of sensationalist stuff that people like me want to talk about all the time. Have you got an example of a project that you're working on that would fulfill those criteria? In other words, you had a look at it, you could see its impact, it's working away now. Don't share inner secrets, but I'd be interested to know if you've got an example for us.
Absolutely. We're the world's largest reinsurer for life and health. One of the things that we offer to all our clients is our guide for life and health underwriting. If you were to imagine it physically, imagine a huge tome of notes or imagine a big chunk of text that is available online that people can use. What we've done is we've applied GenAI to that so that when we offer that functionality to our clients, it allows them to get to the right part in the underwriting guidelines much quicker and therefore saving them time in terms of analyzing the data and the insight as opposed to searching for the information. We started that off for ourselves. First of all is how can we use it? What does it look like? And we then had a pilot with a group of clients who absolutely loved it. And actually some of our other clients went, why have you given it to them? Why can't we have it? And now we've rolled it over to over 1,000 clients. And we measure, we only did this a few months ago, we probably have about 400 active users externally for this. So it's a real simple thing. And that's the other thing I would highlight. Don't go and look for the big thing. Often the beauty is in the small things that everybody does on a day-to-day basis that actually a lot of people use and therefore is scalable.
That raises another question, which is, what is the balance in your work between what you do for the group, in other words, to help Swiss Re, operational resilience, do things more efficiently, and then you've got the solutions team who have the role of rolling out tech and services and analytics to your many cedents that you provide insurance to. Do you also get asked by them to build things that for the solutions team? And if so, how does that sort of play out in the way you pick priorities?
Absolutely. And I think this is the great thing about our industry is the close collaboration between organizations like ourselves and our cedents and what I refer to as our clients. Because often we start off with many of these tools using them for ourselves, whether it's our own modeling on our P&C Re books or whether it's underwriting. One of the biggest tools we've been using for the last 20 years is Magnum. It's well known in the industry. That started off with something for ourselves. An automated claims procedure. How do we ingest data? So a lot of these things we use ourselves. And then what we find is that our clients tend to have the same challenges, perhaps sometimes at a different scale. So we will then make these offers for them as a value added service. The other thing we do is we spend a lot of time with our clients and say, what are your challenges and problems that you're having? And with our insight and our knowledge, how can we then co-create and build things? And actually, this is really where the magic is, because it's about then we're both creating something together from our respective perspectives, but it's solving multiple problems for the industry.
Have you got an example of that you can share with us?
Yeah, so one of the challenges that the industry as a whole has been trying to solve for years and years is the topic of data ingestion. So everybody goes, and everybody's eyes rolls and goes, it's boring. It's about documents and things flowing around the place. But if you think about how many documents or whether it's structured data or unstructured data has to come together, whether it's underwriting or claims, it's quite significant. So you can get handwritten physician notes. You could get the actual contract document. You could have emails, discussion notes. There's lots of insight. And then clearly there's models and Excel spreadsheets. Now, how powerful would it be if the underwriter or the person assessing this could spend more of their time assessing the insights from all of this data, whether it's structured or unstructured, versus spending a majority of time trying to get their hands on everything? Now, we're experimenting with technology right now, which we're seeing early signs of success, to say, we know we can save time. Our guesstimate is a person might spend 7 or 8 hours doing that, if not more. We can probably reduce that down to a couple of hours by the application of technology.
That's really interesting. I mean, that seems we talk to a lot of companies. We try and track themes and priorities as best we can. I would have thought that's jolly near the top of what everybody is investing in, given how unstructured and how difficult this has been in the past, and how the new tool sets are transformational from that point of view. How many have you got in the team?
In my collective organisation, we have a flex between every organisation between permanent employees, and we use a lot of external partners. So internally, we have a few thousand across the globe.
I have difficulty managing 5 or 6. So what do you outsource versus what do you do yourself? That's a lot of people, and they can get through a lot of work. But presumably there are times when you go outside the organisations, lend themselves that way.
Absolutely. I think there's a few things. So what we have a look at is probably two lenses. So first of all is, what is our core IP, and what is what I call our differentiated services? What is it that Swiss really stands for? If I think about a lot of the data analytics, I think about the modeling and the platforms that support that. Those are the things that we tend to put a majority of our internal resource on, because that requires innate knowledge and expertise of how our business works. And clearly, from time to time, we supplement those teams from our partner organizations, because we might have a big project or something to deliver. So that's on one spectrum. The other spectrum is every industry has things that just need to work. And to be honest, there are better organizations to own this than ourselves. So those things, not everybody likes this word, but it's probably the easiest way to describe it. I call it a commodity service. Those things just need to work, and they can be with any partner organization, long as the service is acceptable and resilient. So that's how we think about how we deploy our talent across the globe.
That makes sense. So I just want to come back to something you said earlier, that you rolled out ChatGPT. Presumably you've got a Microsoft house, so you've got Copilot in there somewhere as well. And that was about tooling the workforce and training them and helping with their sort of curiosity. Do you just give it to them? Do they need to be trained? Is there some way in which you can encourage use or encourage some sense of it as an opportunity?
I think the answer is it's all of the above. And I know that's a cheat answer, but let me give you an example. You're right, we're a strategic partnership with Microsoft. So we've made it available to every employee. And we've done that on purpose, because unless you use something in your day-to-day life, how are you ever going to know what it could do for you? So I think that was our rationale. Equally, and some organizations have done this, we didn't want to sit there and do a business case to explain why this was important, because if we gave this tool to everybody, people are, when they start using and the usage goes up, they are going to save time. But if I spent weeks and months calculating and tracking 5 minutes here and 20 minutes here, the business case would have been blown out the water. So I said, it's a strategic decision, give it to everybody, but instead, let's learn from the usage. So we acutely monitor who has a license, How are they using it? How often are they using it? And equally, if someone doesn't need it, we'll close that license off. So that's how we look at it almost from that perspective. I think in terms of training and awareness, just to give you an example, this week I did a call with our underwriting community and we had 900 underwriters on the call really interested on what this technology can do for them in their day jobs. So I think there is that interest around how this can help. And I think it's one of these things that you have to learn and do and learn and do. If you sat in a classroom by the time and didn't do anything with it, by the time you came to use it, you'd probably forget. So I think it's all of those. And the final thing I would say is that it's a continual nudge. I use it. So if I'm traveling and I write an email, the little thing comes up at the bottom of my email saying, do you want some coaching on this email? And I'll have a look at it. And they said, do you want me to rewrite your email? And I'll go, yeah, let's have a see what it does. And even now, after using it for some time, it surprises me about how it will make the email better than what I quickly typed out. So I think it's something that comes with time, but showing people the art of the possible.
That raises this question, which you tool up a workforce in that way. Some people will leap on it, adopt it, over time become more efficient. They'll get more insight. They will become super users and get the benefits of that. Others won't do anything. That raises the question of talent and the future talent. There's a tool set now which makes you brilliant because you understand insurance, you understand tech, you have an ability to embrace AI. Is that presumably is our employee of the future?
I think so. And the way I describe it is traditionally, if we go back a few years, and actually people still talk about it in this way, people talk about tech and business as if the worlds should never meet. And I think the best thing that's happened over the last couple of years is the lines between those two historically divided units has blurred. And with the advent of this newer generation of tool sets, it's becoming totally integrated. And in fact, I think the greatest beneficiaries will be the people who understand how technology can help the business and the business folks who understand how technology can help them. And that's why if I look from a Swiss Re's perspective, I feel incredibly lucky to do the role that I do, because at the heart of our strategy, we believe that data and tech as a core enabler for our organization. And even if you were to go to our annual report, you'll see that loud and clear in the report. My other test is people can often say, of course, you're going to say that in your job. But the biggest test from my perspective is all our business leaders and business community will talk about the things that you would expect someone like me or my team to talk about. So I do think it is about, first of all, starting where we are today and accepting that this is how things are going to progress, but then embracing it. And then so far we've talked a lot about the art of the possible because of the tech, but we need to remember that the technology is part of a broader ecosystem, which is combined with why you are doing it, where is your talent, how are you preparing your talent for the future, do you have the right strategy from a business perspective in terms of how you're going to apply the technology, is there sponsorship? And actually, the technology part of it, and this is where my team will probably smile, is probably the easiest bit because it's binary. The tech is either going to work or not work, but it's everything around it that has to go with it that will actually make it succeed and have an impact.
Do you worry about talent of the future? People call it talent war. You've got to get the best talent, both in terms of beating your competitors to it and other industries. And I think everyone looks at insurance and thinks, what a boring industry. Where would I want to go into that in a technology-driven world? Is it a problem? And if so, what should we be doing about it?
I think you're right. I think it goes in fits and starts. So you will find that everybody wants the same talent at the same time. So if I look at the last 4 or 5 years, everybody wanted cybersecurity experts. Everybody wanted data scientists. And guess what? Everybody now wants GenAI literate people. So I think that is never going to change. And next, who knows, 5 years from now, everybody's going to want quantum people. So I think that will always happen. I think the challenge is how do we educate the workforce of the future about what actually opportunities are in insurance? One thing I've realized is when I now select or recruit, a lot of people are less interested in the actual tool or thing they're going to work in. What they want to know is the purpose of the organization. What impact are they going to make if they join the organization? What are they going to learn? How will they be able to change things? And I think our industry has a real opportunity to talk more about this so that people don't think, like you said, Robin, think it's a boring old thing that they don't really want to have to do in the first place. So I think we've got a lot of work to do on the branding of actually what our industry provides society.
Yeah, I don't think my generation was the least bit worried about social impact or making the world a better place. We were just interested in the money, whereas you can see that this next generation of employees are actually genuinely interested. And I think that puts insurance in a really good position and will help us in the talent of the future. Are you using GenAI for development? You talk to some of the consultants that are doing a lot of sort of systems integration type stuff. They're starting to embrace it. The results sound terrific. People are talking about saving 80% saving, doing it quicker. Is that part of the things that you're looking at?
Yes. So we've made GitHub Copilot available to all our engineers and developers. And at the last count, I had probably it was about near 75% of all the engineering community using it. But the benefits aren't nowhere near the 80% that people are quoting. I think there's a couple of things people forget. An engineer does not code for 8-10 hours a day. They might be doing that for 2 or 3 hours a day because there's other things that they have to do in a day in the life of an engineer. So I think that's the first thing to remember. Second thing, the AI technology probably isn't applicable to every coding language. So that often knocks out some things as well. I think, however, having said all of that, absolutely we're seeing productivity gains, and it varies. We're seeing things of productivity gains of between 20 to 30%. But what that allows people to do is do the higher value added tasks as opposed to the boring repetitive code writing, which actually nobody wanted to do in the first place. So I think where you hear we're going to save 90%, I don't think anybody's there yet.
It's like any form of stat. It's likely to be self-serving. It's likely to be put forward by somebody selling the capability in the first place. I've asked this question quite a lot on podcasts recently. I apologise for passing it off on you as well. But there's two lines of thinking on Gen AI. There's much of what we talked about now, which is where can it be applied? How does it make my business more efficient? Lots of little use cases which have a small impact and running simultaneously. There are those like Paul Carroll, who wrote a very influential piece in the Insurance Thought Leadership the other day, basically saying you have to do that stuff, but you also have to think big, very big, as he put it. This is on its way to fundamentally changing the nature of the insurance model. And he said nobody knows how. If they did, they're the next multi-billionaire. But we have to be thinking in the background, there is going to be really dramatic change in the model over time. That must be part of your thinking as well.
No, absolutely. I almost see it as in 3 buckets. The ground up experimentation, the use cases I referred to, but almost what I call top down disruptive thinking. It's really easy actually to say, today we do process X, it takes Y amount of time and it takes X amount of people. How can we shrink the amount of time it takes and get more insights? You can do that, but it's more difficult to say, okay, we are now going to look at it top down, and this element of the functionality or this element of how we do claims is no longer going to exist in the future. We're going to do it in this way. So I think it takes that total outside in thinking, and I would say that's the third pillar that we have to probably double down on around can it fundamentally change and disrupt the way we do it for the better.
I feel really bad because almost every question that I've asked you is about AI or Gen AI, and it's slightly skewed this discussion. There must be lots of things which you're doing, or at least very influential things you're doing, that have got nothing to do with AI or Gen AI at all. Are there?
Absolutely. Clearly, GenAI is the topic of the day. Everything else carries on. If I look at the other buckets, we talked a bit about talent. We're really doubling down on how do we build scaled organizations and engineer in the right way. Because it's important to think about what you are doing, but you've also got to do it in the right way. So how do we upskill our colleagues and attract colleagues around engineering practices and working differently? So I think that's one topic. The other thing is continuation of building some of the solutions and services that we provide. So if I think about our risk data services, where we have a repository of information where some of our customers can come in with their own data, which is ring fenced to them so nobody else has access to it, and they're able to model preventative action to say, where are some of our challenges going to be based on where our manufacturing plants are going to be, and if a flood was to happen. So we continue with what I say is the core and the heart of our role, at the same time as having an eye out. 6 months ago, I would have said the future, but I don't think it's the future, it's the now, which is the GenAI part. So we are delivering tremendous amount of services and solutions at the same time as innovating.
Do you think your job's going to change? You clearly love your job, and that's something that comes out from talking to you and in the various times that we've met. And that's not everybody does, and that's marvelous to see. It's a high pressure environment in which you work. Do you see it changing over the next, say, 3 to 5 years? This assumes you still want to do the job in 3 to 5 years, but do you think it's going to change the role?
I think it has changed if I look back as well. You're right, I love what I do. And I'm lucky enough to lead a fantastic team and do good things for the company and the customers and clients. So I think that is a massive motivator. But if I look back, I think the role has evolved. I think a few years ago, the role would have been the classic role in any organization, probably would have been about the hardcore nuts and bolts, the wiring and tin of technology. And I think I can see this gradual evolution of the role where it's actually, so my topic might be tech, but actually it's tech from a business perspective. So it's less about this tool versus that tool. Clearly that's important, but it's more of an actual business role as opposed to traditionally what a tech role would be. So the thing that my role has to achieve, and I often call it as a translator layer, the person who understands the technology and the art of the possible, the person who then links that to the business goals and creates something for the common good. And I think that is just going to get bigger and bigger. If you were to look at a spectrum, I see that moving more into what people today call the business and the commercial side, as opposed to the deeper technology side.
I've made a long history of having exactly the right talent at exactly the wrong time. So if I look at what we've done for 10 years at InsTech, it's try and act as a translator between insurance, the business side, and tech and its capabilities and potential. And I've worked 10 long years at it. And just at the time it's going to become absolutely invaluable skill sets, probably the end of my career. That's the story of my career overall, one way or another. Pravina, this has been very inspiring. It genuinely has. It means I'm going to ask you exactly the same question as I ask all our guests, which is, there'll be lots of people inspired by this and lots of people interested in what you just said. What would be the last thought you left them with when they're listening to this podcast?
So I would say embrace data and technology to enable your business and your strategic goals. It will define our industry as we move forward. And ensure that your talent and all your processes that go around to harness the tech are thought about as well. Do not just focus on the tech and data alone. Think about it as a whole system that has to come together to provide the better outcome.
I really enjoyed it. It's a tribute to my persistence that I finally got you on this podcast. I'm delighted that I did. It was well worth it. Pravina, I know how busy you are and I really appreciate your time. So thank you for joining us and thank you for all your support.
Thank you, Robin. It's been great chatting to you today, and have a good rest of the day.
Well, if you've made it this far, then I'm pretty sure you found that as interesting as I did. The InsTech Podcast comes out every Sunday morning, where we spotlight the latest news, leading voices, and freshest updates across insurance that you need to know about. If you would like to take part in these conversations, head to www.instech.co to find out how you can join our network and be a part of the insurance intelligence for the curious.